Let me ask you something. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow? How many times have you waited for the right moment, the perfect mood, or just a little more motivation before you acted? Be honest with yourself. Too many times, right? And what happened? Tomorrow became next week, next month, and maybe even years. Here's the truth. Waiting is the fastest way to kill your dreams. Opportunity doesn't wait. Success doesn't wait. Life doesn't wait. And if you don't move, if you don't push yourself into action, you will watch others live the life you wanted while you stay in the same place. So today, I want you to hear me clearly. Stop waiting for the right moment. It will never come. The only way forward is to force yourself to take action now, even if you're not ready, even if you're afraid, even if you feel like you're not good enough. Because the moment you act, everything changes. Action beats excuses. Every single one of us has dreams, ideas, and plans. We think about the life we want, the goals we hope to achieve, the kind of person we want to become. But between where we are now and where we want to be, there is always a barrier. And that barrier is not lack of talent, not lack of intelligence, not lack of resources. It is the endless list of excuses we create for ourselves. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep people tied to the same place year after year, even though deep down they crave change. And the most dangerous thing about excuses is that they sound reasonable. They whisper to you, I'll start when I have more time. I'll take action once I feel more prepared. I'll begin when the conditions are just right. The problem is those conditions never arrive because life never gives you a perfect moment. Think about it. How many times in your own life have you delayed something important because you were waiting for the right timing? Maybe you wanted to start a business, but you told yourself you needed more money first. Maybe you wanted to start exercising, but you said you needed to buy the right shoes or wait until you had more energy or until Monday came around. Maybe you had an idea to learn a skill, but you convinced yourself you needed to research more before you began. Days passed, then weeks, then months, and before you knew it, the idea was buried under the weight of your own hesitation. That is what excuses do. They make you feel like you are being smart and cautious, when in reality they are robbing you of progress. What truly changes a person's life is not thinking, not planning, not wishing. It is action. Action is the great divider between those who dream and those who achieve. Action is messy, uncomfortable, and often imperfect, but it is the only thing that moves you forward. When you act, even if you stumble, you create momentum. When you act, even if you don't have everything figured out, you learn faster than the person who is still sitting on the sidelines, waiting to feel ready. The truth is, readiness is an illusion. No one feels completely ready when they begin. The successful are not the ones who had everything lined up. They are the ones who started before they felt prepared. Action also has a powerful psychological effect. When you act, even in the smallest way, you build belief in yourself. Confidence is not something you wake up with. It is built through taking steps, facing challenges, and proving to yourself that you are capable. The more you delay, the more your self-doubt grows. The more you act, the stronger your confidence becomes. Think about a time when you finally forced yourself to do something you had been avoiding. Maybe it was making a difficult phone call, applying for a job, or speaking up in a meeting. At first, you felt nervous, maybe even terrified. But once you did it, you realized it wasn't as impossible as you imagined. That single action unlocked courage that waiting never could. The world doesn't reward intentions, it rewards results. And results only come from action. You may have the best ideas in the world, but if they remain locked in your mind, they serve no one. Not you, not your family, not the world. History is full of people who had no extraordinary advantage other than their willingness to act. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for conditions to be perfect. They simply began. And as they moved, opportunities appeared. Because that's another secret. Opportunities often only show up after you act, not before. People who sit still miss the doors that only open to those already in motion. Every time you choose action over excuses, you break the pattern of delay. You train your mind to associate progress with movement rather than hesitation, and this habit compounds. Today, it might be as small as sending that email you've been avoiding. Tomorrow, it could be signing up for that class. And the next day, it could be taking the leap toward the life you truly want. But nothing happens without the first step. Discomfort is the path to growth. One of the greatest truths about life is that every form of growth requires discomfort. It doesn't matter if it's physical, mental, emotional, or financial. Progress is born in the moments when we step out of comfort and into challenge. Yet most people spend their entire lives avoiding discomfort. They cling to routines that feel safe. They stay in environments that don't stretch them, and they make choices that protect them from short-term pain, all while sacrificing long-term growth. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it slowly traps you in mediocrity. Growth, on the other hand, feels uncomfortable at first, but it transforms you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you ever imagined. Think about the human body. If you go to the gym and lift weights, your muscles don't grow because it's easy. They grow because you push them to the point of struggle. The discomfort of resistance, the burning in your muscles, the challenge of pushing beyond what feels possible. That is what creates growth. If you only lifted weights that felt light and comfortable, your body would never change. In the same way, life only rewards you when you push beyond what feels easy. When you willingly put yourself in situations where you are stretched, tested, and even uncomfortable, that is when transformation happens. The problem is our minds are wired to avoid pain. We want certainty, we want safety, we want comfort. That's why people procrastinate. That's why they avoid taking risks. That's why they stay silent when they should speak, or stay in jobs they hate instead of chasing their real dreams. The comfort zone whispers, stay here. It's safe. Don't risk embarrassment, don't risk failure, don't risk rejection. But what most people don't realize is that the comfort zone has a hidden cost. Yes, it shields you from short-term pain, but it also steals your long-term potential. You pay for comfort with regret, and regret is the most painful currency of all. Discomfort is not something to be feared, it is something to be embraced. Every time you feel discomfort, it is a signal that you are entering new territory. Think about the first time you spoke in public. Your heart raced, your palms sweated, your voice shook. You felt exposed, vulnerable, even terrified. But once you did it, something changed inside you. The second time, it became easier. The third time, your voice grew stronger. With each repetition, the discomfort diminished, and confidence took its place. What once felt impossible became normal, even natural. That is the gift of discomfort. It transforms the impossible into the possible through repeated exposure. Consider also the times in your life when you were forced into uncomfortable situations you didn't choose. Maybe you lost a job, maybe you moved to a new city, maybe you faced rejection or failure. In the moment, it felt devastating. You didn't want it. You didn't ask for it. But looking back, those same moments often became turning points. They pushed you to grow, to adapt, to become resourceful in ways you never would have if life had stayed comfortable. What you once saw as pain became the very source of your strength. This is why discomfort is so powerful. It doesn't just build skills, it builds character. It makes you resilient, adaptable, and courageous. And the more you embrace it, the more you realize that fear is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're moving in the right direction. The butterflies in your stomach, the nervous energy, the uncertainty. These are not enemies. They are proof that you are alive, proof that you are growing, proof that you are stepping into the next version of yourself. So the next time you feel discomfort, don't run from it. Don't hide. Lean into it. Train your mind to see discomfort as evidence that you are stretching, learning, and moving forward. Remember, a life without discomfort may feel easy, but it will always feel small. A life with discomfort may be challenging, but it will also be meaningful. Because discomfort is the doorway to growth, and those who walk through it discover a version of themselves they never knew existed. Small steps matter. So many people believe that success is born from big, grand gestures, bold leaps, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. They imagine that one lucky break or one giant risk is what will finally change everything. But that is a myth. Life does not transform in a single moment. It transforms through the accumulation of countless small steps, repeated consistently over time. The little choices you make each day, the habits you build, the small actions you take even when no one is watching. Those are the bricks that build the foundation of success. Think about how rivers carve valleys. It isn't because of one massive wave crashing down. It's because of a steady, consistent flow of water, day after day, year after year, until the hardest rock is shaped and transformed. That is the power of small steps. They may look insignificant in the moment, but given enough time, they have the strength to move mountains. And the same principle applies to your life. The progress you want will not come from waiting for the big chance. It will come from the daily disciplines and actions you commit to without fail. The challenge is that small steps often feel invisible. You wake up early one day to work on your goal, and you don't see immediate results. You go to the gym, and you don't see your body change overnight. You read 10 pages of a book, and it doesn't feel like your knowledge has expanded in that instant. Because the results are not immediate, people give up. They believe their actions are too small to matter. But here is the truth: small actions compound. Just like compound interest in a bank account, little actions done consistently multiply over time, creating results that are far bigger than you could ever imagine. Imagine two people. One decides to spend an extra 30 minutes a day scrolling on social media, while the other decides to spend that same 30 minutes learning a new skill or reading a book. After 1 week, the difference is invisible. After 1 month, still barely noticeable. But after 1 year, the gap between them is enormous. One has wasted hundreds of hours with nothing to show, while the other has gained hundreds of hours of growth and progress. That is the hidden magic of small steps. They don't just create results, they create distance. Over time, they separate those who stay stuck from those who rise. You can apply this principle to every area of life. If you want to build better health, you don't need to run a marathon tomorrow. You need to take a short walk today, then repeat it tomorrow, then build slowly. If you want to improve your finances, you don't need to become a millionaire overnight. You need to save a small amount consistently. Manage your spending wisely and invest patiently. If you want to master a skill, you don't need to dedicate 10 hours a day immediately. You need to practice a little every day until those hours add up and mastery naturally follows. What makes small steps so powerful is that they are achievable. They remove the excuse of waiting. You may not have the time, resources, or confidence to take a massive leap right now, but you always have the ability to take one small step. And once you take one, the next becomes easier. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds belief. Eventually, those small steps carry you so far that you look back and barely recognize where you started. It is important to remember that consistency is more powerful than intensity. Many people get inspired and try to do everything at once, but they burn out quickly. They sprint for a short while and then quit because they cannot sustain the pace. The winners are not the ones who run the fastest at the start. They are the ones who keep moving steadily, step after step, day after day, without giving up. Success is not about doing everything perfectly in one moment. It is about doing something consistently over a lifetime. So never underestimate the power of a small action. It might feel tiny, almost invisible, but each step you take is a deposit into the future you are building. And when you look back, you will realize that those little steps weren't little at all, they were everything. Discipline over motivation. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they must wait to feel motivated before they can take action. They think progress requires a constant spark of inspiration, a burst of energy, or a wave of excitement. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days you feel on fire, ready to conquer everything, and other days you feel heavy, lazy, and completely uninterested in doing what you know you should. If your progress depends on motivation, you will always be inconsistent because your emotions are inconsistent. The truth is, the people who achieve real success are not the ones who are always motivated. They are the ones who are disciplined enough to act whether they feel like it or not. Discipline is the ability to show up and do what needs to be done regardless of mood, regardless of circumstances, and regardless of whether you feel inspired. It is like a muscle. You don't start strong, but the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Think about an athlete training for competition. Do you believe they wake up every morning excited to train, thrilled to push their body to exhaustion? No. There are days they are tired, days they feel sore, days when motivation is completely absent. But they train anyway because they understand that consistency, not emotion, is what brings results. That is discipline, acting on commitment, not on feelings. Motivation whispers, "I'll do it when I feel like it." Discipline answers, "I'll do it no matter what." And this is the difference between those who dream about success and those who live it. When you rely on motivation, You live like a slave to your emotions. When you develop discipline, you take control of your future. Because life does not reward people who only act when they feel like it. Life rewards those who are consistent. Let's take a simple example, waking up early. Many people set an alarm with the best of intentions. The alarm rings, and in that moment, motivation is nowhere to be found. The bed feels warm, sleep feels irresistible, and the excuses come quickly. I'll start tomorrow, I'll just rest for a little longer. It won't make much difference. That's motivation failing you. But the person who relies on discipline instead of motivation will still get up, no matter how tempting it feels to stay in bed. And over time, that small act of discipline builds strength, not only in their mornings, but in every part of their life. Discipline also creates freedom. It sounds strange, but it's true. People think discipline is about restriction, about being too strict, about taking away joy. But in reality, discipline is what gives you control over your life. If you are disciplined with your health, you gain the freedom of energy and strength. If you are disciplined with your finances, you gain the freedom of choice and security. If you are disciplined with your time, you gain the freedom to pursue your dreams without being constantly overwhelmed. Lack of discipline may feel comfortable in the moment, but it creates chains that limit your future. Discipline feels hard in the moment, but it creates freedom that lasts a lifetime. Another important truth is that discipline builds identity. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are capable, reliable, and strong. But every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your self-image. This is why discipline is so powerful. It doesn't just create results, it creates confidence. You start to see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, and that identity becomes fuel for everything else you do. And the beauty of discipline is that it doesn't require dramatic acts. It's not about being perfect or superhuman. It's about showing up daily consistently, in small ways that add up. Writing one page when you don't feel like writing, showing up to the gym when you're tired, studying for 30 minutes when you'd rather watch TV. These small acts of discipline, repeated again and again, compound into extraordinary results. Motivation may get you started, but it will never take you across the finish line. Discipline will. Discipline is the quiet force that carries you through the days when you want to quit, the nights when you feel exhausted, and the moments when your mind screams to stop. Discipline is stronger than mood, stronger than excuses, stronger than doubt. And if you want to achieve anything meaningful, you must stop waiting for motivation to appear and instead train yourself to act with discipline, even when your feelings resist. Failure is feedback, not defeat. One of the biggest fears that holds people back from taking action is the fear of failure. The moment an idea comes into their mind, they imagine what could go wrong. They picture themselves being rejected, embarrassed, criticized, or disappointed. And because they fear failure, they decide not to try at all. But here is the truth: failure is not the end of the road. It is simply feedback. It is information. It is life's way of teaching you what doesn't work so you can discover what does. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who avoided failure. They are the ones who embraced it, learned from it, and kept moving forward. Think about how children learn to walk. A baby doesn't stand up and walk perfectly the first time. They fall over and over again. They stumble, they bump into things, they cry. But do they ever decide, walking isn't for me? No. They keep trying. Every fall teaches them balance. Every failed step teaches them strength. Eventually, after countless failures, they succeed. And once they learn to walk, they never go back. The same principle applies to every pursuit in life. Failure is not a signal to quit. It is proof that you are in the process of learning. The problem is, as we grow older, we begin to attach shame to failure. Society teaches us to avoid mistakes, to seek approval, to only show our best side. We become so afraid of what others will think if we fail that we stop taking risks altogether. But avoiding failure is the fastest way to guarantee regret. Because when you don't try, you don't learn. And when you don't learn, you don't grow. Failure is feedback in disguise. Every rejection shows you how to improve your approach. Every mistake reveals what you didn't see before. Every setback forces you to think differently, to adapt, to innovate. Without failure, there is no real growth. Imagine if Thomas Edison had stopped after his first few attempts to invent the light bulb. He failed thousands of times, yet every failure gave him more data, more feedback, and more clarity about what didn't work. When asked about his failures, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset is the difference between those who eventually succeed and those who give up too early. When you look at anyone who has achieved greatness, athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, artists, you will find a long trail of failures behind them. But they never saw those failures as permanent defeats. They treated them as stepping stones. They understood that each failure carried within it a lesson, and that lesson was worth far more than the temporary pain of embarrassment. The truth is, every failure makes you tougher, smarter, and more prepared for the next step. Think about your own life. There are moments where you failed, times when things didn't go the way you hoped. Maybe it was an exam you didn't pass, a business that didn't work out, or a relationship that ended. At the time, it felt devastating. But if you look back now, you will realize those moments taught you something valuable. They forced you to adapt, to become stronger, to see life differently. Failure shaped you in ways success never could. The most dangerous thing you can do is let failure convince you that you are not capable. Failing at something does not mean you are a failure. It simply means that one method, one attempt, or one approach didn't work. The mistake most people make is tying their identity to their failures, when in reality, failure has nothing to do with who you are. It only reflects what you tried. And if one attempt doesn't work, it simply means you must adjust and try again. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Every success story you admire is built on a foundation of failures that the world rarely sees. Behind every achievement is a history of trial and error, pain and persistence. And if you are willing to see failure as feedback rather than defeat, you will never run out of chances to succeed, because every failure brings you one step closer to the breakthrough you are seeking. Opportunities reward the bold. Life is full of opportunities, but most people never see them because they are waiting for certainty. They wait until they feel completely ready, until they have all the answers, until every detail is perfectly clear. And while they wait, the opportunity slips by, because opportunities rarely wait for anyone. The truth is, life does not reward hesitation. Life rewards boldness. The doors of opportunity are often invisible until you knock, and the moment you act with courage, new possibilities reveal themselves. Think about how many chances are lost every single day because someone was too afraid to act. A person has an idea for a business, but they wait until they have the perfect plan, and someone else launches it first. A student wants to speak up in class, but they hesitate, and the discussion moves on. Someone wants to express their feelings to a loved one, but they hold back, and the moment is gone forever. Hesitation doesn't protect you, it robs you. Boldness, on the other hand, creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities. It's important to understand that boldness does not mean recklessness. Being bold is not about jumping blindly without thought. It is about having the courage to move forward, even when you don't have all the answers, even when fear is present, even when uncertainty lingers. Boldness is about trusting yourself enough to take the first step, knowing you will figure out the rest along the way. Bold people understand that clarity comes through action, not before it. Opportunities are like doors that only open from the inside. You cannot wait for them to swing wide for you. You have to knock, you have to push, you have to test them. When you take bold action, you signal to life that you are ready for more. Think about any great achievement you admire. It began with a bold step. Someone decided to speak when silence was easier. Someone decided to act when waiting felt safer. Someone decided to take a risk when the outcome was uncertain. And that boldness opened doors that comfort and hesitation never